Welcome to the Unlist. Today is all about spooky scents. I alluded to doing a video like this a few episodes back for those of you who watch my channel, so this is that promised episode. What are spooky scents? Well, spooky scents are fragrances that you can wear to help you celebrate Spooky Month. And what is Spooky Month? Well, I'm sure a lot of you, regardless of what part of the world you live in, are aware of Halloween. It's a very commercial holiday. It's not a real holiday per se. Nobody gets off work for it. And it's really just taking something that had a much darker, more serious purpose, like Samhain, All Saints Day, All Hallows Eve, and making it super kiddie and commercial and whatever, just like Christmas, right, and Easter. Same sort of song and dance. Now, with Halloween, us crazy Americans over here, we've decided to stretch it out to be the whole month of October. Just like with Christmas. It used to be just one day, right? Then it became the whole month of December. Now Christmas is technically like from November 1st to New Year's, so it's like a 2-month stretch, right? It just steamrolls right over Thanksgiving. It doesn't barely exist now. Well, we've kind of done that with Halloween. We've taken Halloween, we've made the whole month of October one gigantic month-long Halloween. And if you're someone that loves the ghosts and goblins and haunted houses and, demons rising up from the depths of hell and vampires and werewolves and that whole thing, the whole 19th century Victorian vibes with the gas lamps and cobblestone streets and the long sideburns, stovepipe hats, the tall, dark, and morose kind of guys, stalking the alleys of old London like Jack the Ripper. If that's your thing, if you're a big fan of Tim Burton, you like to listen to Bauhaus, you're really into Winona Ryder and all that, typical gothic, spooky claptrap, then this is the video for you, okay? Because I'm going to give an unlist of fragrances that I think fit that theme, whether you're more of a My Chemical Romance kind of goth or more of a, black metal sort of in the frozen woods of Norway with torches and stuff. Whatever your level of severity is and all the things in between, whether you shop at Hot Topic or actually like live in a cave, this will be the themed video of fragrances for you. Fragrances that I think are gothic, are spooky, are dark, can help you celebrate the month of Spooky Month of October. Let's get going, shall we? Oh, by the way, if you're someone who has principles or religious observations that keep you from enjoying stuff like this, it's okay if you skip this video. I'm not going to be upset. I know people, different walks of life and certain regions of the world, mentioning Halloween is tantamount to like being stoned, okay, getting stoned. And I don't want that. I don't want harm to come to anybody because they decide to wear a spooky fragrance in their part of the world. So if that's you, I get it. Don't put yourself under any undue harm just for my benefit. I gain nothing from the experience. Trust me, I promise you. Now, first episode, maybe the only one, because there's only a certain number of fragrances in my collection that I can name. And if I find I left some out, next year I can do another one, or if I rotate some in, rotate some out, and have new things to mention, then same thing. But consider this for right now a one and done. I might do one next year. We'll see how it goes, okay? So the first Spooky Month fragrance I'm going to name is one that I had the bottle right here, actually. The only one that I had the bottle for. The rest of them I just name off the top of my head. And that is Lord Molyneux by Parfums Molyneux, released in 1988. You can see right on the bottle there, it's got like a stovepipe hat, the sideburns, the whole 19th century gentleman thing. But the reason why this is a spooky fragrance for me is this fragrance is very much dark, almost saturnine, which is a word I like to use a lot because it fits the purpose. It is a sheep, effectively. A men's aromatic sheep. It's got 3 different citruses. It's got citron, bergamot, and mandarin in it. It does have rose, although the rose is not listed in the note profile because back in those days, guys would be averse to seeing rose. So it's in there, but it's not named. But it is a combination of rose and lavender. Pretty rare combination. You don't see a lot of rose-lavender combos. Typically, it's commit to one or the other, right? But this has both. And it has clary sage. It has a really nice sandalwood, labdanum, oak moss base, of course, and it's got some peppery notes. It's got vetiver in here, you know. So it's a nice, dark, moody, feels like rose petals pressed between the pages of an old book, okay? So it's not a real juicy rose, not a real sweet, jammy rose. It's not a leafy, stemmy rose. It's that dry, wilted, Tim Burton, the petals of the flower have gone like this and fallen off. That's what you get. And this fragrance is also nice because it's not really that well loved. You think for a vintage fragrance that the typical suspects would be all over this, right? But no, they're not. You know, I feel like they never made it past Captain Molyneux, which was a '70s fragrance, came in this same bottle actually. Captain Molyneux came out, and everyone loved that. And that's basically like Captain Molyneux is like an IROC Z28 with an 8-track player in it, and you're blasting Fog Hat while wearing your mullet, right? Driving down a dirt road like Joe Dirt. That's Captain Molyneux. This is the exact opposite. This is regal and you know, and very structured, and just that dark episode of Dark Shadows, right? You are Barnabas Collins wearing this fragrance. That's kind of how it is, all right? And you know, that's a vibe that not a lot of people like, and it's not a popular fragrance for that reason. But that's why it's in this video, okay? Next up, same time period, a year earlier though, a little bit older. It's 1987, and it is Salvador Dali Pour Homme. Some of you already know this fragrance. It comes in a little teardrop-shaped bottle with a lips is the cap. It's of a similar stripe to Lord Molyneux, but it goes a little more in the direction of smoke. It's a little darker, a little smokier. Also, a little more dank. Heavier on the oak moss, less on the animalic. See, Lord Molyneux has got some labdanum in it. It's got a little bit of civet in it. It has more of that sandalwoody, animalic sort of vibe. It's more of that Victorian era, whereas the Salvador Dali Pour Homme goes more for the dark woods, the petrichor, okay, that digging in the soil, digging up a grave or something. That's Salvador Dali Pour Homme. And another one that's not super popular, so even though it's from the 80s, it's fairly available because it's a very niche market for that fragrance. Now, let's go back even earlier. Let's go all the way back to 1978, and we are going to have a fragrance called Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme. Now, this fragrance, unfortunately, is really expensive now because it was discontinued, and it had a following, and of course, you know what happens next, scalping, prices skyrocket. So I can understand if you have to skip this one, but it is probably one of the most gothic rose leather combinations I've ever smelled, okay, from any time period, new or old. And it comes in multiple different reformulations, and there are some people who would literally battle me to the death with swords drawn over which one is the best. And I'm just saying I don't care. I've smelled them all. They all smell within 6 feet of each other, you know, several paces of each other. It's just like a difference of, okay, which one is going to have a bit more of this note, which one's going to have a bit more of that note, okay? That's what it boils down to. You know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, is what I say. And if you disagree with me and you want to draw swords and meet me in the courtyard, you know, noon on Saturday, then sure. But bear in mind that I'm a cheater when it comes to sword fighting, so I'll probably hit you with an arrow from the nearby tree before I even show up in that court yard with the sword out, okay? So just letting you know, I'm not going to really fight for the honor of an inanimate object, okay? It's kind of silly. So some of y'all just need to like go touch some grass, like I like to say. Go outside and breathe some air. Stop huffing your perfumes for a little bit. Let the rest of us enjoy fragrances, okay? But in this case, it is what it is. Van Cleef & Arpels is very expensive. It's kind of rare. It's out there. But you will find that the thing that makes this fragrance feel gothic, feel spooky, is the way it handles rose and carnation with a castoreum leather. And then it also has an orris note in there and a bit of rosewood as well. And the rosewood and the orris combine to make a very dry, desiccated, once again, like dried flowers pressed between pages of a book, a very dry, very stately kind of stiff upper lip fragrance. But then the rose and the carnation and the castoreum is what gives it that real sort of kick, that lumbering monster that barely fits into his tuxedo. Like you're trying to take Frankenstein, but you're dragging Frankenstein to a ballroom to cut a rug, you know, like putting on the Ritz, like young Frankenstein, right? He's like, putting on the Ritz, like that. That's kind of what I feel like when I wear Van Cleef & Arpels, but it's a good fragrance though. Now let's go forward. Okay, let's leave the 70s and 80s behind and let's zip forward into the future. And the next spooky fragrance on my list is going to come in the form of 2006 Encre Noire by Lalique. All right. A lot of you are already very well acquainted with Encre Noire. All right. So I don't need to tell you anything about this. But for those of you who don't know what this fragrance is, Encre Noire is literally the smell of the forest around Dracula's castle. Okay. You are probably escaping from said castle. You're not running towards it, I imagine. You're running away from it. You are Jonathan Harker. You just got free from his sirens, you know, and you climb down the wall and you cross the moat, and now you're being chased by his wolves through the woods. And it's just the smell of the decay, the moss, the peat, everything around you. And the vetiver in this fragrance is done in such a way that it's very, very dark. I mean, it's a mixture of synthetic and natural vetiver. So it's doubled down on the vetiver. You get the vetiverol acetate, as you would expect. Okay, but then you also get bourbon vetiver and actual Haitian vetiver too. And it is bone dry, pencil shavings, very, very stiff and dark. Zero humor, like a corpse, you know, like The Walking Dead. All right, no ha ha, he he, ho ho. This is just Dracula's castle. It's a full moon outside. You're running for your life. And the good news is it has flankers. It has quite a few, actually. I've never smelled any of them, and that's my bad. I need to get on that ball and smell them. But it has flankers. So there are lighter versions of this. There are different takes on the theme. But honestly, the original is the most extreme one. All of the flankers just try to soften or shift the profile away from the infamous harshness of the original. So you don't want to wear much of it, trust me. You don't want to. It's a very strong fragrance. You will go nose blind to it and then think that it's not strong, and then you'll put on more sprays, and then everybody around you will just hate you. All right, so trust me. But if Terre de Hermes is daytime, if Terre de Hermes is the sun out, Dracula is hiding in his coffin, then Encre Noire can be seen as the nighttime, where Dracula is out looking for blood, and beware of when he does, okay? Now we've got that out of the way. Let's move. Let's shift forward. Now the next one I'm going to name, this one is also a little more contemporary, but it's still, in my opinion, within the realms of spooky dark. And it is a homage fragrance. It is called Lyric Man. This fragrance is probably the strangest interpretation of rose I've ever smelled for a man. It is a strange, soapy, clean, green rose, okay? But it's done with the darkest possible type of rose. So imagine taking a very blood red, dark Turkish rose, all right? It's full body Turkish rose and all of its morose quality, and then trying to make it clean and gentlemanly. Again, it's like you're taking a vampire or something and trying to dress it up, and maybe put some makeup on his face so he doesn't look like he's get rid of his pallor a little bit and make him look a little fleshier so he can be amongst mortals, right? And that's the vibe I get from this fragrance, and it's between two worlds, okay? That Turkish rose, that dark, heavy rose is on one side, you know, and then on the other side is all these soapy, clean dihydromercenols in this fragrance, all right? And it's just, it's sort of between itself. But when you wear it, you will understand why I call it a gothic fragrance, why I think it fits that bill. So there you go. Now, we're getting close to the end. This is not going to be a super duper long video. Like I said, there's only so many fragrances of this nature that I can really name in a video before I run out. But a couple more. So going back in time a little bit, we will go to 1980. And we will talk about Giacomo de Giacomo by Giacomo Perri. Now, this fragrance also appears whenever I talk about tobacco or vetiver or any kind of smokiness. So this one is another one that kind of gets name dropped more than once by me, but it also fits the Gothic theme because it just smells like an ashtray. So on one hand, you could say it smells like a smoky jazz club, right? But then on the other hand, you could say it smells like a crematorium, like you're an undertaker and you're burning corpses, okay? So there again, it really fits the theme. Now, let's get on to some artisanal fragrances, okay, that meet the spooky month requisite. The first of them is almost on the nose, okay? So you're going to have to forgive me here. It's very on the nose, but it's a fragrance by Darren Allen called Bathory. And if you know who Countess Elizabeth Bathory is, say no more, fam, right? We can stop there and move on to the next. But for those of you who don't know, she was an infamous figure who used to bathe in the blood of virgins to keep her youth. It didn't work, clearly, but vampire legends got written about her because of it. So this particular fragrance is very musky. It is very dark. It is all about black currant and rose mixing with civet, castoreum, just a literal black hole of animalic notes, okay? And it is a completely 100% natural perfume too. Not all of Darren Allen's fragrances are because he likes mixed media, but this particular one is all natural. And it is rose, black currant, these musk profiles, oak moss, a handful of other things. And yeah, you will feel like when you wear this fragrance, you will feel like you are waging war against the realms of mortal man. When you wear this, you'll feel like you're in an episode of the Castlevania anime and you've got your undead army behind you and you're going to burn down a village or something and then drink the blood of everybody in the village. That's how you'll feel when you wear Bathory. It is what it is. I can't say any more than that. Now, another artisanal fragrance for you. It's a fragrance from Clandestine Laboratories called Ashes. And it's supposed to be the smell of death and rebirth. So it's one of the prettier, more fey-like, okay, fey-like Gothic fragrances. It's not going to feel like a lumbering monster coming to eat you, all right? But it does have the Gothic vibe because it's a mixture of floral notes and ashen notes that are supposed to smell like flowers placed on a grave, like the life and death cycle. You know, there is death about, but then life springs from the ground, right? Because flowers and plants and things grow around those graves, correct? So it is more of a conceptual piece, but it is a fragrance like none other. And it is one that if you appreciate the Gothic overtones, you will want to check out. Now here comes some honorable mentions, fragrances that I don't own, but would qualify. And one of them is Michant Loup by L'Artisan Parfumeur. So it's basically a werewolf fragrance, say no more, right? It's got a very interesting smell. And yeah, it's one that I would recommend checking out. Other honorable mentions would be another Amouage, Memoir Man, could also be a very Gothic, heavy, dark sort of fragrance that fits the theme. Back in the 80s, Tristano d'Onofri is one that could also be in that same Gothic realm as Lord Molyneux and Salvador Dali Porro. Tristano d'Onofri actually gets overlooked a lot the same way Lord Molyneux does. It's one of those vintages that, you know, should be liked by more enthusiasts and collectors from that particular interest in the fragrance community, but for some reason, you know, they tend to overlook the house. And there you have it, guys. Those are my spooky scents for the spooky month of October. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any spooky recommendations. Put them in the comments below. Bye.